Hi, my name is Nicole, and I am going to be reading from a book called The Gaslight Effect. I have it up the right way. And it is written by Dr. Robin Stern. And I'm pretty sure I've heard of Dr. Robin Stern before, but I've never heard of this. I had never heard of this book before. I've heard the term gaslighting thrown around a bunch, and I wasn't ever sure exactly what it meant. So this book kind of explained it, especially in the intro, which is all I've read so far. But I did take, I highlighted some things that I wanted to be able to go look back at myself, but also so that I could share with you, so maybe you know a little bit more about what it is, unless you already know. But, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read from the intro. I haven't even started chapter 1 yet, so we'll do it together. My goal is to read as much of it as I can, and I put it on a YouTube link. So I have another book that I had written, and I should have links available as well. Some of them might be private, so if you have a hard time getting in, let me know. All right, so from the introduction, I read basically what I highlighted basically what a gaslighter is. All right, so gaslighting, the author wrote, is a type of emotional manipulation in which a gaslighter tries to convince you that you're misremembering, misunderstanding, or misinterpreting your own behavior or motivations, thus creating doubt in your mind that leaves you vulnerable and confused. Gaslighters might be men or women, spouses or lovers, bosses or colleagues, parents, or siblings. But what they'll have in common is their ability to make you question your own perceptions of reality. Gaslighting is always the creation of two people, a gaslighter who sows confusion and doubt, and a gaslightee who is willing to doubt his or her own perceptions in order to keep the relationship going. As I saw it that shared responsibility was the essence of gaslighting. It wasn't only emotional abuse, it was a mutually created relationship I called the gaslight tango that requires the active participation of two people. The essence of the gaslighting tango is the dance between two people who need the participation of the other. So, another couple of things I highlighted and I wanted to share. At its worst, gaslighting leads to major depression, with formerly strong, vibrant women reduced to abject misery and self-hatred. Either way, I was continuously astonished, both as a therapist and in my personal life, at the degree of self-doubt and paralysis that gaslighting can induce. In real life, gaslighters are rarely so aware of their own behavior. In fact, gaslighting is a type of stealth bullying, often practiced by a spouse, a friend, or a family member who insists that they love you even as they undermine you. You know something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. The term gaslighting puts a name to that abuse, enabling you to see clearly what your boyfriend, your aunt, or your so-called best friend is really doing. As Mark and I continually remind our students, you have to name it to tame it. I like it. So, I'm not even done with the intro. The next part is gaslighting in the news. So I'm going to go ahead and read that right now. A few years after my book was published, I occasionally saw articles in which the term was used. In The Week, for example, a review of the film Zero Dark 30 referred to certain interrogation techniques as a type of gaslighting when a skilled interrogator refers confidently to events that never happened, inducing the prisoner to wonder whether his memory is failing. The interrogator understands that few things are so destabilizing as being made to distrust your own grasp on reality. That gaslighting can bend your mind even more powerfully than physical abuse. Meanwhile, an increasing number of blogs linked gaslighting or bullying, both in personal relationships and at work. Is gaslighting a gendered form of workplace bullying? Asked David Yamada on his blog, Minding the Workplace. While numerous dating and self-help blogs talked about the importance of identifying and standing up to your gaslighter, gaslighting had even been defined on Wikipedia with my book cited for further reading. But 2016 was when gaslighting was really catapulted into popular consciousness. In March of that year, comedian and HBO host John Oliver claimed that Donald Trump had gaslighted him. At first glance, the story seemed simple enough. Donald Trump announced that he had refused an invitation to appear on Oliver's program. John Oliver had his people call me to ask me to be on his very boring and low-rated show, Trump tweeted. I said, no thanks, waste of time and energy. That sounds like Trump. But here's the twist. Oliver never made that invitation. He had no interest in having Trump as a guest on his show. Why would he have invited him? When Oliver tried to set the record straight, Trump raised the stakes. On a radio interview, he insisted that he'd been asked not just once, but 4 or 5 times. Now, at this point, you'd think that Oliver should shrug, incorporate the tweet into his opening monologue, and maybe share a laugh about it with his staff. Instead, Oliver admitted he actually began to question his own reality. Trump seemed so sure of his version of events, maybe Oliver had invited him. It was genuinely disabling to be on the receiving end of a lie that confident, Oliver said during his show. I even checked to make sure that no one had accidentally invited him, and of course they hadn't. John Oliver, comedian, talk show host, and left liberal commentator, was in no way invested in Donald Trump's approval. He didn't care what Trump thought of him or what their future relationship might be like. Trump had no emotion or familial or financial hold on him, and by all appearances, John Oliver is a confident guy with a firm grip on his own view of reality. Yet somehow, Trump had managed to make him doubt his memory of something as cut and dried as whether or not he had invited Trump to appear on his show. As Huffington Post senior reporter Melissa Jeltsin put it, Trump's claim was delivered with such gusto that Oliver began to doubt what he knew to be true. Even though he knew Trump was lying, that's the power of gaslighting. Jeltsin actually interviewed me for that article in which I affirmed with Oliver and elsewhere Trump was exhibiting textbook gaslighting behavior. When you don't take responsibility for your actions, or deflect responsibility, or try to undermine the credibility of the person asking you about your actions, that's gaslighting, I told her. Suddenly the term was everywhere. CNN, Teen Vogue, Salon, and dozens of web posts, social media posts, and blogs. Suddenly everyone was talking about gaslighting. So the next section is called The Gaslight Effect Revisited. When my publisher told me they wanted to reissue The Gaslight Effect, I saw it as an opportunity to rethink the book I had completed 10 years before. Based on my ongoing practice as a therapist, my consulting with Facebook, and my current work at Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, how did I feel about this book? My dog's getting on the couch, so everything's being pushed around. You comfy, Gunner? I reread it, and I'm happy to report that it holds up completely. How did I now feel about this book? I reread it, and I'm reading this again. I reread it and happy to report that it holds up completely. I felt no need to revise any of it. What strikes me now even more powerfully than 10 years ago is that the greater person's certainty, and perhaps the greater his narcissism, the more comfortable he might be at holding his own reality, regardless of how many people challenge his grasp on the facts. That very narcissism is a defense against taking other people seriously or caring about their view of the world. A narcissist may become enraged when others don't share his views. Many gaslighters respond in that way, but the rage is not because they doubt their essential righteousness or rightness, only because it's because they cannot bear to not have complete control. In other words, you can't gaslight a gaslighter, or at least to the extent that someone is invested in gaslighting, it becomes hard to gaslight them. The rest of us, however, have more difficulty maintaining our worldview. We question if we're sure of what we've heard or seen. Our humility and self-awareness make us vulnerable in a way that a more narcissistic person might not be. We've also been taught from childhood that other people's perceptions are sometimes more accurate than our own. When we hear someone say, "Is that black or white?" or "up is down," someone say black is white or up is down, often enough, it's hard not to at least ask ourselves whether they know something we don't. In the Gaslight Effect, I offer a remedy that I still consider reliable. I call it, look at your flight attendants. Just as on board a plane, the flight attendant's behavior signals whether that lurch is a minor bit of turbulence or the beginning of a major disaster. So to the flight attendants in your own life help, you see whether that new boyfriend is just having a bad day or continuing a pattern of abuse. When you've begun to question your own reality, your flight attendants, friends, family members, perhaps even a therapist can help you forge an accurate assessment. In the same way, faced with political or social gaslighting, perhaps we become each other's flight attendants. It's up to all of us to find the sources of news that we trust, the analysis we can rely on, the facts that hold up to scrutiny. None of us do that alone. We need both the experts we have come to believe and the friends, neighbors, family, and coworkers whose perceptions we appreciate. Gaslighting is profoundly destabilizing. Perhaps it takes a village to find some solid common ground. Meanwhile, if you or anyone you know is struggling with a gaslighting relationship in your personal life, the Gaslight Effect will help you understand, rethink, and ultimately break free. Whether that means transforming the relationship from within or leaving it for once and for all. Throughout my entire professional life, my goal has been to help people live more compassionate, effective, productive, and fulfilling lives. But that's just not possible when you're in a gaslighting relationship, continually second-guessing your own responses and forever apologizing for your perceived failings. As I wrote 10 years ago, you have a deep source of power within you to free yourself from the gaslight effects. The first step is to become aware of your own role in gaslighting, the ways in which your own behavior, desires, and fantasies may be leading you to idealize your gaslighter and seek his approval. And so, your journey begins. The Gaslight Effect is here to help you every step of the way. It takes courage to embark on this journey, and I'm excited for you, for all that you are about to learn. Okay, so I might just go ahead and read right into the chapter 1, but I'm going to do it separately so that, it makes more sense. And maybe if somebody wants to listen, while they're driving or, at work, I often use my AirPods while I'm cooking or doing whatever I have to do, so that I can still listen. And I listen to podcasts, I listen to books online, and I listen to some of my friends' live videos that they do in our groups. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the links, or when I post this link in a group, let me know there. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'm really looking forward to diving into this book. I love you all. Thank you for listening.